My name is Naisargi. I'm a cultural anthropologist. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Anthropology at the University of Toronto. I work in urban India. My first book was about queer activism in India, and my current research is on animal rights and animal welfare politics in India. One of the things I'm particularly interested in is the role that contradiction thinking plays in our ethical relationships to animals. For example, if someone wants to be a vegetarian and it's pointed out, well, hey, your shoes are made of leather. And then I took a course in women's studies at the University of Georgia when I was in college with Dr. Nita Karp, who I will be forever indebted to, who inspired me. And then I took an elective in feminist anthropology and fell in love with anthropology. I'm really interested in people who are passionate or what I would call obsessed. I always want to know what makes them work so hard, what makes people so incredibly vital and so engaged with the world. And I think that's why I'm very interested in questions of politics and activism.
My name is Barbara Gibson. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Physical Therapy at the University of Toronto, and I conduct my research at the Bloorview Research Institute at the Hull and Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital. My research looks at disability, particularly how we understand and address disability within the field of children's rehabilitation, but it also has implications for healthcare more broadly and for society more broadly. So we might have someone that uses a wheelchair to mobilize. Now, traditionally in rehabilitation, we often think of that as a failure of rehab. We haven't taught this person to walk normally. But does that really matter? Are they able to get around? So we're trying to create a more positive and diverse way of thinking about disability. I worked as a clinician for many years as a physiotherapist in a hospital for children. And I was really inspired by what I saw in clinic, and I wanted to pursue research that did the same thing.
Hello, my name is Wolfgang Kubla. I'm a scientist at St. Michael's Hospital, a professor of physiology and surgery at the University of Toronto, and the director of the Institute of Physiology at the Charité Berlin in Germany. The focus of my research interest is lung and vascular physiology. To this end, we have developed a unique set of imaging techniques which allow for the direct visualization of the function of the lung and the intact blood vessels. For example, on the top you see blood flowing through a small blood vessel in the intact lung. On the bottom, you see how this blood is then taking up the oxygen in the lung. In blue, you see blood with low oxygen content entering the lung field, which then turns red when the blood becomes fully saturated with oxygen. After almost 30 years, I'm still fascinated by the ability to directly visualize these processes in real time. Ultimately, seeing is believing.
I am Hani Naguib. I'm a professor at the University of Toronto, and I am the director of the Toronto Institute for Advanced Manufacturing. My area of research is related to smart and intelligent materials. It's a new class of materials that can sense and activate to any change in the environment. These new class of smart materials can have applications in biomedical, energy, and transportation sectors. So an example is what we call the artificial muscles, that we can have actually a muscle built based on these material, and also a smart textile, which is also some sort of smart skin that we can have it embedded with sensors and also with batteries in them. My colleagues and my peers and also my instructors in the past inspired me with all their knowledge. Imagine in our everyday life, if we have these materials around us, it can sense and also activate to the environment we're living in.
So my name is Sharon Straus. I'm a geriatrician clinical epidemiologist here at the University of Toronto, and I do work in knowledge translation. And knowledge translation is about the science of how do we optimize use of research in practice and decision making. So we know that about $250 billion is spent on research around the world every year, but it's been estimated that about 85% of that is wasted. And the waste then results in inefficiencies in the healthcare system, but also impacts patients. So it reduces quality of life, but also quantity of life. And so one of the things that we're focused on is to try and narrow that gap between what we know works and what we do in practice and decision making. As a geriatrician, my patients inspire me. I get to ask and answer questions every single day that are raised by my patients. And I get stimulated every day by my patients and my trainees to do this. So I think it's a privilege to do what I get to do every day.
I'm Stephen Wright. I'm in the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology at the University of Toronto. My research area focuses on the study of plant evolution and adaptation, particularly using genomes to gain new insights into how plants are evolving. Our recent research is moving into understanding how weeds are adapting in the context of farmers' fields to herbicides. So we're using genomics to understand how and why that's occurring. My undergraduate at the University of Toronto. And it was my first year course, which actually focused on ecology and evolutionary biology, where it was really exactly the sort of consciousness raising you'd hope to have in first year. I had never really heard the logic of evolution and how science can investigate these ongoing evolutionary processes. And that's really what inspired me from there. The job never is the same every year, and that becomes a really important and exciting